So we've had a look at word stress, but the other side of the coin is sentence stress. Now, word stress is fixed. You can't decide to stress a word differently because then it stops being that word. But in sentence stress, the speaker has choice about which word to make the most prominent, and this will affect the meaning of the sentence even if the words are exactly the same. Let's have a look at some example sentences. You have 3 sentences here. Please try saying them to yourself and deciding which are the words that you would usually stress when you are saying these sentences with no particular meaning, with the everyday kind of meaning. So looking at the sentences, in the first sentence we'd usually stress all 3 words, Jane's here now. In the second one, John's at home tonight, there's one completely unstressed word. And in the last sentence, the professor's in Auckland this evening, there are 3 stressed words and 3 unstressed words. And you'll notice that in fact, rather than stressing a word, you tend to stress one of the syllables of a prominent word. Why do we stress words? Well, they're the ones that carry the real meaning of the sentence. If I say Professor Auckland evening, you might have a chance of understanding the meaning. If I say the in this, it means absolutely nothing. So the unstressed words are often the grammatical words that just help us cobble the sentence together. Let's think about the rhythm of how we say this. If you say these 3 sentences at a normal speed and try and clap the beat. I'll do it now. Jane's here now. John's at home tonight. The professor's in Auckland this evening. What you heard is probably that the first sentence takes about the same amount of time to say as the last sentence, even though the last sentence has a lot more words in it. So English is a stress-timed language, which means that the stressed words appear at roughly regular intervals, and the unstressed words have to be squished in between them, and of course that can mean that they're not pronounced very clearly. Let's have a look at some more example sentences and see exactly what happens to the sounds in unstressed syllables and in unstressed words. Try saying these at speed and listen carefully if you can hear some sounds change, some sounds disappear, or some sounds appear, some extra sounds. So stop the video and say these and listen carefully to yourself. What you probably heard in the first one is that an egg is run together so that it sounds like one word, an egg. Goodbye, see you next week. Well, there's a lot of things happening here. First of all, the D in good starts sounding like the B in bye because it's simply too hard to move your lips from D to B. So we tend to say goodbye. See you next week. The U becomes a Y sound. It's got that schwa sound again. And in next week, the T disappears because it's too hard to say all those different consonants together. So it's easier to say next week. Did she answer you? Sometimes if you say it faster, it can be did she answer you? And the D disappears or becomes very reduced. And we add a little extra sound in between she and answer to make it easier to run these words together. She answer you. Sometimes several sounds change. Do you know if he's coming? Do you know if he's coming? If you say that at speed, do you can sound like j. And if he's coming, the H disappears and becomes E. So if he's coming. When we're actually speaking, we tend to contract verbs, so instead of I would have come if I had known, we say I'd have known, I'd have come if I'd known. And those little tiny contractions can be very hard for learners to hear when they're spoken at speed. Should learners actually speak like this? Well, if they want to sound very fluent, yes, you probably should encourage them to link and to speak fluently, but it's not always possible for all learners. However, do make them aware of what happens in English when it is spoken at normal speed. Otherwise, they'll never be able to understand native speakers in the community. Let's now have a look at the way sentence stress can actually affect meaning. If you say the sentence, "I'd like a cup of herbal tea," there's one word which is stressed a little bit more than the other stressed words. It's the one, again, that's the loudest, that has the change in pitch, the change in intonation, and the longest. "I'd like a cup of herbal tea." Try saying this sentence and play around with which is the word that you stress the most in the sentence, and how does this change the meaning. So stop the video and try that. Let's explore a couple of these options. If I say "I'd like a cup of herbal tea," I probably mean that I don't want a mug. If I say "I'd like a cup of herbal tea," I mean I want herbal tea, I don't want normal tea. If I say "I'd like a cup of herbal tea," that means you seem to have a cup, I'd like one too. And if I say "I'd like a cup of herbal tea," I'd like one, but I'm probably not going to get one. So the way we stress an identical sentence in all other respects can really change the meaning and the context. So this is something that you can do with your learners, explore different contexts for different ways of stressing this kind of sentence. Sentence stress can also affect intelligibility and understanding. If you look at these two sentences, try saying them aloud and seeing what the main difference in pronunciation is between them. Pay particular attention to stress and rhythm. "I can do it," "I can't do it." You'll hear that in the first sentence, "I can do it," the main stress is on the word do, and the word can is unstressed. "I can't do it" has two beats, can't and do. And this is really the real difference, not whether you pronounce the T at the end of can't, but whether you stress the word can't in the negative sentence. This can make a big difference to understanding. I had a learner who consistently would say "I can do it" when she meant "I can't do it," and I would always have to check with her, can't or can. But when she stressed the word can't, then you could understand her. Your practice of rhythm and stress should be really integrated with any kind of oral language practice that you do. So if you're teaching new expressions, make sure you teach them with natural rhythm and stress. Draw your learners' attention to any stressed words, any changes in unstressed word, any sound changes, the way you can link words, and the way words change when they're spoken at speed. There are also specific resources such as this one, which allow you to practice very rhythmic speaking. "See you later, Mr. Baker," "Must go now, Mrs. Lau." "Nice to see you, Marianne and Sue. Have a great weekend." "Thanks, you too," which you can use for reading aloud and for practicing rhythm and stress.